12 News Eye on Agriculture with Britton Rucker.
New data out from the wildfires that scorched the Oklahoma and Texas Panhandle in late February. What it will cost to rebuild and restock pastures. And one mistake can cost you thousands of dollars or even worse, your life. We check in with Black Hills Energy for Safe Dig Month to make sure you stay safe. Good evening and welcome into Eye on Agriculture. I'm Britton Rucker. Mexico has announced its increase in surveillance and inspections of U.S. livestock. That's after the confirmation of avian flu in dairy cattle now in 6 states. Mexico is a major market for U.S. dairy and beef producers. The CDC putting the word out that while there is no major threat to humans or a massive spread of virus, it wants more people to get tested, specifically those who have been exposed to the virus. It says a person in Texas who tested positive last week had direct contact with an infected dairy cow. The CDC also reminding folks that the nation's milk supply is safe. And coming up in just a bit on Eye on Agriculture, we go to Texas and go in depth as America's largest egg producer is also dealing with the virus. The USDA has shared an update on the winter wheat crop. As of April 7th, winter wheat was rated 49% good to excellent, 37% fair, and 14% very poor to poor. Farmers across central Kansas say their crops are showing signs of stress from drought conditions, since central Kansas missed out on some of the moisture that benefited western Kansas farmers this winter. The state of Kansas investing over $450 million into making sure communities in rural Kansas have access to high-speed internet. Internet service providers will expand high-speed internet outside of cities and into very rural parts of our state. The state has committed to making sure all Kansans have access to high-speed internet by 2030. With Governor Laura Kelly saying in part, Kansas is knocking down barriers to affordable, accessible high-speed internet in every corner of the state. The USDA has made $1.5 billion available to help farmers advance conservation and climate-smart agriculture. Now, this is part of President Biden's Investing in America agenda. The USDA now accepting project proposals now through July 2nd that will help farmers, ranchers, and forest landowners adopt and expand conservation strategies to enhance natural resources while tackling the climate crisis. These projects can in turn save the farmer money, create new revenue streams, and increase productivity. Wildfires that scorched the Oklahoma and Texas Panhandle in late February ravaged livestock, forage, destroyed homes, barns, and killed hundreds of animals. Oklahoma State University Extension specialists and members of the Disaster Assistance Response Team have gathered data over the past month to grasp the impact of 16 fires that burned within 3 days. Now, the Smokehouse Creek fire claimed an estimated just over 1 million acres in Texas and Oklahoma, and that was the largest recorded fire in Texas history. One of the largest cost categories is fencing. $6.7 million in fencing repair and replacement cost is expected for Ellis County. Cattle producer losses are estimated at $5.8 million, also in Ellis County, for recovery cost. This doesn't include cattle that died in the fires or had to be sold at a loss on the market value. A total of 674 head of cattle died, and 15,000 were estimated to have been displaced and had to be fed. Now, damage totals estimate $32.9 million or $215 per acre. Scientists say the effects of climate change are threatening a morning ritual for millions that cherished a cup of coffee. Researchers overseas now rolling out new technology to help preserve the treasured tradition. CBS's Tina Kraus has a story.
A strong cup of Java is known to give a buzz, but plants are the ones getting wired up at this coffee plantation in Tanzania. Solar-powered sensors are helping researchers keep tabs on the effects of climate change.
The idea is to have this technology attached to some plants that will be our like the voice of the plantation.
Italian scientists attached electrodes to 20 plants at this coffee farm in East Africa.
That's what you want, yeah?
To monitor how a changing climate can tweak the taste of Arabica coffee. Arabica beans make up more than half of the world's coffee. And in Tanzania, where much of it is grown, trouble is brewing with unpredictable rainfall and extended droughts.
I saw suddenly an acceleration of competition for the water. But the waterbed also with less water flow in the river, the double effect.
The tech team says electrodes attached to the plants record and decode their electrical signals to reveal what they need, like water or more sun, helping to boost yield, enhance sustainability, and optimize irrigation.
If proven successful for coffee crops, this system principle could be applied to a wide range of agricultural sectors affected by climate change.
Researchers are already looking to up their game with artificial intelligence to create a smart system alerting farmers when it's time to take action. Tina Krause, CBS News, London.
European researchers predict climate change will slash the amount of land suitable for cultivating coffee worldwide by as much as 50% before the year 2050.